Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today I am going to be talking about the first episode of EXU Calamity. I am a little behind. Episode 2 came out yesterday. Still haven't watched it yet. I just finished episode 1, and by God, did I think this was awesome. It is so rich in lore. It expands the world and the history of the world. It introduces us to characters within that lore and that history that I am excited about. I am very excited about where those characters are currently in Calamity. So, if any of the questions that I sort of bring up throughout this, and I'm gonna try to avoid spoilers as I talk about this because EXU Calamity is something that I think all fans of Critical Role should watch. Brennan is an amazing DM. He is absolutely fantastic. I would say he is on par, if not a little under Matt, and I would rather say on par because he got me hook, line, sinker right from the beginning. Everything about it was just awesome and fun. All the characters that he had to play each felt different and unique. And he didn't do all that many voice changes itself. It was more like the inflection of how he spoke. It was different, and like the tone in which he spoke for a lot of characters were different. And just because of that alone, he was able to make a bunch of different characters who were rather interesting. Which I don't want to shit on Abria already. That's something she didn't do. A lot of her characters sounded the same. So I guess the point of that is if you were worried that EXU Calamity is going to be like EXU Kaimal, which was extremely underwhelming or disappointing, it's not. It's fantastic. It is 4 hours and 10 minutes of awesome. It's not actually 4 hours. There's like a 20-minute break in there. But it's still awesome. I enjoyed every single second. The world of Avalier is awesome. The city itself, and to go in a little bit of spoilers, right at the beginning, during the dream, when he said Avalier Rise during one portion of it, I was like, what the hell does that even mean? Until he started talking about the city itself, which is a floating, traveling city, which implies that the dream, I'm already going into mild spoiler territories, if the dream happens, it's when they land in the other part of the city, which is dope. So the city is two pieces, one that floats in the air. It's actually a bunch more than this, but there's a main piece, Avalier, that floats in the air, and then there's a ground piece that's like a big ring. That is what's remainder of the city, and I forget its name because it's not relevant quite yet. They're landing there soon, but it is awesome. I love the whole theme. The Age of Arcanum is awesome. I'm super into this hyper stylized wizardry where everyone seems like really fancy and really, I want to say posh, and I like that there's futuristic aspects or steampunk aspects mixed in with this. I really enjoyed the setting that Brennan did amazing at capturing. And there's like an underground portion where one of the characters seems to spend most of their time. It's so good. I enjoyed the opener when they started talking about the city itself, when Brennan started talking about the city itself. It was awesome. I enjoyed the Sam's character being on a bunch of these hologram pillars and then one big one on the waterfall, and eventually when we go on top of the waterfall we have the statue of the guy who lifted the city, and it is just, the city itself is really cool. I had a really clear vision of what it was in my head when he was describing it, which is awesome. To me it is sick. I want to see all of the art from this depiction of the city. I'm fairly certain there might be some in like the Teldore guide or even the Wildmount guide, but I want to see like fan representation of this so bad because it is going to be awesome. And I hope a bunch of fans, like, instead of making like one big skyline view of it, I hope they make like a bunch of different districts. Like they start making art of different districts and they put them together and bam, we have the city. I'm so excited just from the setting alone, and the idea that it is not seconds, but like a month away, maybe, it might even be sooner, from the calamity happening where the betrayer gods return. And I am so excited because this episode was aside from the beginning, which was a horrible dream, the rest was cheery, fun, exciting until the end. And it was great seeing this world, seeing the characters interact within the world and with each other. These characters were fucking awesome. I wish I could get a book about them from level 1 to where they are now, because I know this 4-episode stint is not going to be enough. I think all the players are amazing, of course. 3 of the players are from the regular campaign, and Abria and then 2 new guys. They're all great. I don't want to focus so much on them and their characters quite yet. I'm going to talk about them once Calamity's over, and go into more detail about each of the characters, because they're awesome. But to give a little bit of a quick rundown of what I think of all of them, I mean, aside from just saying they're awesome, my favorite character is Sirit, I believe is how you pronounce his name, Travis's character, who is some sort of cop, detective guy, or at least that was the vibe I got off of him. And he's a bird folk. Eric Cochran, I believe, is what the actual term is for the game, but I think they have a different one for Critical Role. He's awesome. He is badass, and I would love to watch an animated noir series of him solving crimes. I think that would be sick. He is an inquisitive rogue, which I think is a rogue class that I have never seen been played yet. At least I don't believe any of my players have, or any of the other players that I've been playing with ever have. Maybe once. But it's a class that I think is, from my personal experience, highly underrated, and I'm super excited to see it. And then Sam's character being a news broadcaster is awesome. Abria's character being a mechanic underneath, making sure that the thing holding the city up doesn't decide to die. I think that's great. Xerix, I believe his name was, one of the new players whose name I unfortunately have forgotten right now. I'm just kind of going off the cuff of this video. I just finished the episode. I'm going to watch it again because I have to. It's great. Xerix, he's a paladin who has no god, because this is the Age of Arcanum, so his divinity is more from the people. He is the first knight of Avalier, and I think that is a concept that I can get behind, because I feel like it is very limiting. I thought it was a subclass that might just be based off Arcanum or some sort of arcane stuff. Maybe like a subclass that Brennan came up with, but instead it's a divine class still. But the divinity comes from worship from people, to their protector, as the vibe I got. And then there was, I think it was Nihilus, the other new player, and he was great too. He's a former pirate who seems to be in charge of the treasury now, and he's like mildly posh too. It was funny because they were talking about when they showed up at this ball. I'm jumping all over the place because this was a great episode. But they were talking about when he showed up at this ball, he's like, what's an expensive tree that I could have? Or that, what's the most difficult tree possible to get right now? And then Brennan goes on this little rant about this tree that's super hard to get at right now in Marquette, which is super far away from where they are. And then Nihilus just goes, I have that. I have like a bunch of them. And I think that was perfect. I love all of these characters. They're like, it's weird. They're all kind of posh, but because they're all posh, it's okay. And it's really fun. Abria's character and Sam's character are divorced. They used to be married, and I can't tell, based off the first episode, which one divorced the other. Because I can definitely see Abria's character getting kind of done dealing with the news broadcaster and the constant hounding of paparazzi and all that, and fangirls, whatever. But I can also see Abria's character getting locked into her work and just deciding that it's more important to make sure that Avalier stays flying rather than me give a damn about my ex-husband. And I think that's interesting that I can't tell. Maybe it's both. I think it might end up being both. It might be, he left because she was absorbed in her work, and she decided to leave because he was absorbed by the people and he didn't, give her enough time. It might be a mutual thing, and it seems very mutual based off the way that it came down. And then Marisha's character, who is the Keeper of Scrolls, she's on like the upper echelon of people, and really enjoyed her relationship with Avalier itself. Her grandfather is the one that lifted the city, and that is a good deep connection that I'm here for. Xerix, the paladin from earlier, he doesn't classify Avalier as his home. He's actually more down, he'd rather be in the ring, I believe, but because he is the paladin or first knight of Avalier, he's got to be an Avalier. So yeah, he's really cool. He has a griffin. I need to read that class if that's available. I don't know if it's like a class that's out or not. I haven't read a lot of the classes recently because I've been a DM for a while and not a player. And the time I did be a player, I chose to be a Horizon Walker Ranger. So didn't even look at Paladin, but the Griffin is like stars and jewels and a corporeal form, not necessarily like a griffin itself, but more of like a see-through galaxy griffin, and I think that's really cool too. All of these characters are awesome. I think I missed Nihilus. I think it's Nihilus. I'm probably wrong. I'm gonna go back and be like, oh, you're stupid. That character, the ex-pirate, I didn't quite catch his class. I think he might be an artificer based off all the things that he creates. Like he created all of the walking automatons that populate the city, that help people get around the city. Like the world itself was awesome, and the characters were all fantastic. But I want to get back to Brennan for a minute, because this dude caught me hook, line, and sinker from minute one of him narrating the dream at the beginning. And then he had me the entire time. He caught me as quick as Matt does, which is why I say he and Matt are equals. And if you want to say he's a little lower because Matt is a voice actor and he can do a billion voices, and Brennan can do a ton of voices too, but not as many with as many variations, sure, fine. I still say they're on par. Voice acting does not equal good DMing. That being said, he was fan-friggin-tastic, and he had me on the edge of my seat for pointless moments. Like, it was great. He had me on the edge of my seat when he was just announcing a new character entering the room, and when a random NPC walked up to them and started acting all weird, he had me just hooked on every character he introduced, because each character had their minute to kind of grab you. And that was amazing. He did an excellent job. I don't think anyone could do this better other than Matt, because Matt created the world. And at first I was a little disappointed because Matt wasn't going to be playing, but then I realized that he'd have to make a character like Dariax who doesn't know what the hell's going on. So I'm actually glad Matt's not there. That being said, I don't have a single negative thing to say about his DMing. His DMing is fantastic. I'm going to have to start watching Dimension 20 because he DMs on there. So, going to have to go start watching him more, and everyone else. I'm sure all of these I don't know if the other players are from Dimension 20 as well, but they're all amazing. Everyone role-played really well. Travis is starting to show his roleplay chops like super, super well. He was really good with Ford, and then with Chetney, I kind of felt like he isn't roleplaying as hard. He's more joking around. But this character is super hard roleplay for him, and I'm super excited for that. And then as they get, we get individual introductions, which is great, giving every character the gravitas they deserve for being level 14 and being as a part of this society that is filled with a bunch of snobs, I guess is the way for me to put it. I can't think of a positive word for it. Rich entrepreneurs? I don't know. There's a bunch of people who are higher ups, and they each got the gravitas to be introduced, and I really enjoyed that. Sam's character got introduced as a daily news guy on the waterfall, showing throughout the city. His face was massive, and he's a changeling, which is also really cool. And then, Marisha is a keeper of scrolls in the brass ring, I believe is the level she's in, which is the higher echelon of people, even above everyone else. So she got her excellent moment where she was standing below her grandfather's statue, feeling the whole gravitas of being a part of that family. And then with Abria's character, like I said, she was below Everyone got their moment to shine, their introductions. And the Paladin got his moment to shine through his dream, which was, I believe it was supposed to be Pellar the Dawnfather, kind of stomping on that neck of that giant devil giant thing, and him kind of telling him to back off. Like, that was a great moment for him. That was an awesome dream sequence, too. I didn't realize it was a dream sequence because it's Calamity. I figured they were just going to go for it right off the bat. So when it was a dream sequence, that was pretty sick. Yeah, I can't gush about this enough. I thought it was fantastic. If you were worried about Calamity being Kaimal, like as underwhelming or as disappointing as Kaimal was, you are in for a treat. This was fantastic. I'm going to go watch episode 2 the minute I press end on this recording because this was awesome. I'm so excited to see it. When they start talking about characters that we have a brief history of, I don't want to name names just because if you haven't seen it yet, I feel like I've done a decent job avoiding spoilers, but there are 2 characters in specific to me that stand out as very interesting. One seems to be at some sort of beginning of his journey, and one seems to be kind of coming to the climax of their journey. And I am so excited to see if one definitely will stick around. I don't know if the other will. I am excited to see where they end because they're both kind of questions for me, as I'm not like, I like watching the show and I like reading the lore, but it doesn't retain. Like, I don't keep it forever. There are some people who just keep it forever. I don't. I have to go back and remind myself who people are. So with certain characters, the 2 I'm specifically talking about, I would love to see where they end. And not to mention, I can't wait for all of this to begin to truly crumple. And I wonder if they're going to get to that point before they land, or if they're going to land and then everything starts to crumple. So, who knows? I don't know. This was awesome. I'm so happy that, and not to mention, I need to talk about one more thing. I feel like I kind of crapped on Abria a lot when I was talking about Kaimal, and a little bit throughout this. She is a fantastic player. That is the seat she belongs in. She's a player, and it fits so well. Because one of the things that she did a lot was she would interrupt players a lot and kind of tell them how they were feeling during Kaimal and even the original EXU run, and then, would sort of kind of have a moment where they stumble over each other before she gets to overpower them. Whereas this, as a player, that's okay. As a DM, you're supposed to wait until they kind of finish what they're saying, and then you can add on to it. But as a player, you go first. You describe what you're feeling first, and the DM bases it around you. And that is a perfect seat for her, in my opinion. I think she is a very good DM at times, but a player seat is magnificent for her. She was awesome. I like her character. She's amazing. And I can't wait to see episode 2 to see more of her character and every other character develop. Everyone's roleplay was amazing, which is why I've mildly forgotten some names on the table, which makes me feel terrible. But I was so invested in their characters that their names kind of just faded away. And I was like, oh yeah, that's this character, that's that character. It's not the player, it's the character. And this has been amazing. These are amazing players. And there's an amazing DM. It feels like Critical Role. And that is something that EXU Kaimal struggled with. But this feels like EXU. Like Critical Role. It really feels like we're taking a break from Critical Role to go back in the future, or back in the past of Critical Role. Not, we're taking a break from Critical Role to do a side quest that could take place in any other setting, if that makes sense. That's what Kaimal was for me. It's something that didn't have to take place in the Critical Role setting. But this feels like Critical Role. So, yeah, I'm in love with this. I'm gonna go write my next game, because I'm DMing this weekend. Fuck yes. And I'm gonna watch EXU Calamity while I do it, because this shit's awesome. And I am so excited for the rest of it. So, without further ado, that's been me. I'm going to talk about episode... You know what? I'm not going to talk about episode 2. I'm going to let this finish out. I'm going to let 3, 4 come out, and then I'm going to talk about it all. But I was planning on sort of being slower watching these episodes, but no. I have to watch episode 2 right now, and then Thursday I got to watch the whole thing. I'm not going to even worry about the next day. That's because I have it off. But anyway, I am so in love with this series, and yeah, it's been amazing so far, and it's going to be even better shortly after. I can't wait for episode 2. Episode 3. I'm on episode 2 now. So yeah. Anyway, I'm losing my mind over here. Go watch Calamity if you're still here watching. Peace.